let's be clear about it. Quitting is the only way to eliminate more than 7,000 toxic chemicals generated by combustion of tobacco. And the reason we are here today is that this is not easy for many smokers. This is as simple as that. However, with the emerging market of new nicotine-containing products, we can start foreseeing new strategies that we call tobacco harm reduction, which is simply the substitution of nicotine in tobacco combustibles by means of using low-risk form of nicotine products. Of course, in order not to jeopardize this strategy, the paradigm has to be that these low risk are really low risk. And there is confusion, as Charlotte Piesinger has highlighted this morning, especially from in vitro and animal studies, which are very confusing, mainly because of a large variety of methodological issues, which I don't have time to get into details today. So I think it would be wiser to translate our toxicological assessment directly into humans, because this will minimize mistakes and errors. And the easiest things that we've been doing for years and decades is just to look at exiled biomarkers like CO. And I mean, this is just my study because I wanted to show my data, but if you look into the literature, there'll be hundreds and hundreds of articles showing that quitters will, in time, reduce the level of toxicants. And the same has been shown today by previous speakers, highlighting this very nice cross-sectional study by Dorothy Hatsukami group, showing that in blue, the vapors. Let me tell you, these are vapors for at least 1 month. So some carcinogen metabolites may still be there, and some may be also dual users. However, this will approach, as Konstantinos Farsalino just said before, the normal baseline levels, which can come from exposure to air pollution or indoor air pollution. But you will see clearly the difference is quite staggering. And also, I would like to repeat on Peter Ajek's talk that this is a prospective study on urine biomarker of exposure, in this case a metabolite of acrolein, and you will see that from baseline, in 4 weeks, you'll go down by, I'd say, a fifth. And even dual users seems to enjoy some reduction. The real problem with these studies is that at the end of the day, because of litigation purposes, as John Britton has highlighted today, it's very important to prove that these shifts in toxicology is going to translate in benefits in the users, in humans. And that's my task today. I will skip this and this, and unfortunately, it's impossible to provide long-term evidence for tobacco harm reduction for many years. It will take another decade or so to start showing direct evidence. Although we can translate some of the historical epidemiological evidence from the snus data. But many people will not be happy with that. So we'll still need direct evidence for at least harm reversal in health and disease. And this can be shown, as you will see in a minute. So the strategies we took at the University of Catania is twofold. Either to look for direct evidence for harm reversal in healthy smokers. So we just look at the very sensitive changes in health outcomes, or to look for harm reversals in smokers with pre-existing disease. And that, in theory, should be easier because the outcome measures are more subject to shift and change. Let's start with the first one, direct evidence for arm reversals in health. You're all aware of these two studies. We were lucky enough when we started the ECLAT to have a vision. The vision was not only to carry such a randomized controlled trial to measure success rate, but also to try and measure outcome of lung health, cardiovascular health, and so forth. In essence, this is what we did. For example, vital signs were measured baseline, and then regularly at week 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 24, and 52. And that's what we got in terms of blood pressure in this group of, we started with 300, quote, healthy smokers, and we ended up with 184. And you will see here, when we stratified the study group by smoking phenotype, and by smoking phenotype I intend continuous smoking phenotype, so they don't change in between time point assessments, we see that there were absolutely no changes amongst failure, reducers, and quitters. Big deal. There were healthy normals. So it is expected they will see no change where there's nothing to change. However, in a secondary analysis, we looked in more details on those healthy smokers with abnormally elevated blood pressure at the baseline. And that's what we get. We get the quitters were reducing their systolic blood pressure significantly compared to baseline to a significant extent. We are talking about 10 to 12 millimeter mercury. And there's also some trend for the reducers. So that's, I would define harm reversal. And although these are highly selected individuals taking part in this large trial, this has been in a way confirmed by the fact that when 2,162 hypertensive vapers were asked about their blood pressure conditions, the large majority, 50%, said they improved by vaping. Another thing that we went on to measure was weight. Weight is important because all of you know that the post-cessation weight gain is one of the big problems that we have to face in smoking cessation clinic. And it is also a proxy biomarker for cardiovascular disease and for diabetes. So that's what happens. As expected, you will see that quitters will gain weight over time because they're quitters. That's in line with the literature. Whereas reducers, these are not heavy reducers, they're reducers. By definition, they reduce their baseline level of cigarette smoke per day by at least 50%, so it's not 80% or 90%. And quitters are alike. However, just look at the percentages. You know, this is 4% change from baseline. This is what you change on a Thanksgiving Day. You know, after Thanksgiving Day, you may change your baseline weight. But try to be more convincing and try to contrast the data in the ECLAT study with those of the Cochrane review. The Cochrane review will tell you that the post-cessation weight gain has these numbers. And these numbers are considerably higher than the numbers we saw in the ECLAT study. We have another study completed. It is retrospective and confirms this data. I'm a respiratory physician by training, so my interest is in the lung. We measure spirometry at the selected time points and also fractional exhaled nitric oxide. And that's what we got. Okay, let's focus not here, because this is good news, on these other panels. These are, as John Britton explained to you early on in his lecture, measures of the caliber. And if you stratify the patients in the ECLAT study by smoking phenotypes, there are absolutely no difference. That's pretty stable. Why? These are normal, healthy normals. However, if I look into very sensitive measure of small peripheral caliber of the airways, I'm able to pick up an interesting signal here. This is quitters, and quitters return back to normal predicted values, so it's reversible. We also measure nitric oxide. You all know nitric oxide is very important for immunology, rheology, and it's also a measure of airway inflammation. And of course, CO in the quitters will go down. We already shown this before. But let's have a look at exhaled nitric oxide. The literature will tell you that all smokers will have very low levels of exhaled nitric oxide. But if you quit smoking, the levels will return within the gray area, which is the normal area. So some immunological function may be restored. We're doing flow cytometric analysis to demonstrate that there is also some gain on the immunological arena. And that's for the healthy smokers. Now, the second strategy, as I said before, is to look for direct evidence in smokers with pre-existing disease. Let's start with asthma. Of course, we all know that putting smoking and asthma together is not really a good thing for a number of reasons. And so we investigated subjective and objective asthma outcomes for the first time in smoking asthmatics who switched to electronic cigarettes. So this is a retrospective study from clinics. And you see here, upon regular electronic cigarette use, there's an improvement of this parameter here, which measure airway caliber. And this is maintained up to 24 months, so it's 2 years. Of course, it's a highly selected group, once again. The same thing applies to FEF 2575. Of course, it's more sensitive, so you already pick up improvements already at 6 months time points, and then 12 months, 24 months. This is metacolon PC20. Metacolon PC20 measures the twitchiness of your airways. If you think asthmatics that goes up in the Alps, you know, the best case scenario in terms of clean air policy, you know, air from the Alps, cold, nice, dry. Bad for asthmatics. They'll get very bad asthma attacks because of that. However, with vaping, they will reduce over a considerable little time their level of twitchiness in the airways. And this stays stable up to 24 months. And of course, also quality of life improves. In terms of asthma exacerbations, there are no changes in terms of exacerbations, but the main reason is that the baseline was very low. The group was self-selected and had an average of 1 exacerbation per year, which is what you expect in a normal population. So very little changes. However, if I sub-select frequent exacerbators, they have their exacerbation at both follow-up visits, okay? And we had 2 people who dropped in the course of the study at 24 months. And for these 2 people, the same clinic, same doctors, same strategy, and you will see they keep on smoking here, whereas those who are using electronic cigarettes are considerably reducing the number of cigarettes smoked per day. What does that mean in terms of cardiovascular risk? It means that in time, they will reduce the systolic blood pressure, they will reduce the diastolic blood pressure, and in terms of good pressure control, you see at baseline, both groups are comparable, are similar. They are at about 20-25% of patients in the clinic who are poorly or who have a good control. But when they start vaping, over time, the level of good pressure control improves, whereas it stays stable in the reference group. So, take-home message is that improved lung function, respiratory symptoms, subjective and objective asthma outcomes with electronic cigarette is possible. With electronic cigarette, improved blood pressure and blood pressure control in hypertensive patients is possible. There are also some improvements in dual users when the reduction is substantial, over 80% from baseline. Exposure to e-vapor in vulnerable populations do not trigger acute decompensation of asthma symptoms or cardiovascular symptoms. So in conclusion, electronic cigarette may be a safe alternative to cigarettes, even in smokers with chronic diseases. And of course, we will need now prospective studies to confirm this data. Thank you.